as I cough, as I cough and choke all at the same time. Okay, let's go to, we are live. Let's go to,
Hey guys, welcome back.
yeah, I know. Somebody was asking me about my daughter's graduation, and I was literally like, "Oh my God, that was just last week." But um, what felt like literally felt like it was ages ago. I was like, no, I was just there literally this time last week. I was with, we were just going through it. So I'm looking for our group so I can send them a message. But we renamed the group, so, or I renamed it. So
All good, all good.
there we
Uh,
go. Okay. I've got
well,
to,
we're glad that you guys could make it, whether you're catching us now live or on the replay. We love that you're here to become a LinkedIn rock star. You're well on your way. If at any point, while Melanie is doing this, I'll filibuster a little bit.
yes.
If at any point you have any questions or want to share something that you've tried for yourself so that others can try it too, please feel free to share your thoughts, your comments, your questions in the chat. Please also, keep it classy. We don't want to insult anybody. We don't want to make anybody feel bad. This is a safe, supportive space. So yeah, here to cheer you guys on and support you.
Yay.
And this evening, we're excited to talk about how to fully maximize your LinkedIn presence.
And I want to say that this question, like, I don't know, maybe I was really proud of myself for like coming up with this whole thing about maximizing your LinkedIn connections. Cause honestly, I don't think this is talked about enough. I don't think we talk about, I know we haven't talked about it, but I don't see a lot of other people talking about really determining, like, digging deep into what your first degree connections, your second degree connections, and even your third degree connections, like everybody talks about followers and growing this number, and there's definitely reasons why you want to it exponentially helps you grow on LinkedIn, but sometimes we forget, like, our leads, our opportunities, they're sitting right there with people that already know us. That it's not this hard conversation to have. And so sometimes we overlook that obvious. And so I think that's one of the things that is really important into today's conversation. So I definitely geeked out on this topic in particular. So
Yeah. I get
so
really excited about it when I go over it with clients too. I'm like, this part gets me so nerdy.
Well, and I do the same, because a lot of times I'm told, especially with my career coaching clients, that, oh, I don't have a network. I don't have a network. That's not true. You do have a network. You have a network. Everyone has a network. It's just a matter of the depth of the network. But there's so many ways to
And how
build
you
that
leverage it.
network, but also how you leverage it. You don't necessarily, you know, we always talk about like viral posts. Like, you don't need necessarily you don't need a viral post to, like, build your business, like, because that's like watching a shooting star. It happens and it's great and it's beautiful, but it's not lasting. That was a great analogy, by the way. So I'm really like,
And we
I'm
caught it,
really,
folks. It's being
and,
recorded for posterity.
and I know. So I just have to cut that part out for editing purposes. But it's which is also like, now I'm coaching when I'm like doing transcriptions of notes and using Gemini as my note transcriber. And I'll be like, wait a minute. When you're transcribing this, make this note there. So, but yeah, I really love this. I do love this topic. So we want to know, if you're watching, first off, let us know where you're watching from, where you're at. If you catch us on the replay, let us know that as well. Just drop in replay. And we didn't really introduce ourselves, but I don't know if
No,
we
we didn't.
really do the quick introduction of yourself, Shell, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Yeah, thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Shell, your LinkedIn cheerleader, as you can see on your screen. Here I've got the pom poms for evidence, and what I help you and so many of our clients do is to engage more effectively on the platform, to really like lean in authentically to who you are and create a safe, supportive space for you to feel empowered to talk more about what you want to talk about, to do the work you want to do, to find aligned clients and opportunities that make the most sense for you, and to leverage your network and engage with them so that you have it in your back pocket. Basically, the things that we talk about from week to week. Melanie, you want to introduce yourself? Although I don't think you need any introduction, but like, go for it.
I'm the girl that's all over the place sometimes. No, I'm a career coach, but I'm also a LinkedIn strategist. And for LinkedIn strategy, I help both my career coaching clients, but also consultants, business owners understand how to use the LinkedIn platform to be found, seen, and heard. And it's something that Shell and I actually just had this conversation with. We were talking about kind of our past histories and our work careers and things of that nature. And the one thing that, while we've mentioned it and we've said it to each other in the past, realizing that we have one founded goal together, and that is simply we want to teach people how to use this platform in a way that feels comfortable for them, but in a way that they can also learn how to utilize and leverage all these tools that are at your fingertips. Reality is neither one of us had that. Like we learned the hard way. We learned by consuming every single piece of information. The term analysis paralysis happens, where then you're like, where do I begin? Definitely, that is some, that I can get into that very easily. So, but we also realized when we both started coaching, while it kind of actually around the same time period a little bit, that the people we were speaking to had no clue how to use this platform and weren't using it properly. And I hate the word properly, but just weren't using it to their advantage. That's probably a better way of saying it. So, yeah, tonight we're talking about your connections. So I have a question for the audience, which I'll drop in the chat. And the first question for the audience tonight will be, how many first degree connections do you have? And I do not want people to feel like, oh, I can't say that because I don't have that many, or I, feel you do not have to wear a coat of shame, um, or anything of that nature. This is important to kind of know, because why? Because we want to grow, and you got to know where you're starting from in order to grow.
Facts.
Again, it's not about growth of like tens of thousands. It's about incremental growth. And the first thing, before I get a question for Shell, is it's understanding that your LinkedIn connections. So I always tell my clients, it's not really about connecting with me per se. It is great you want to connect with me. I hope that you'll love my content. I hope that you'll stay engaged with me long after we work together. I want to follow your path. But here's the benefit of why you should connect. When you connect with me as your coach, you become a second degree connection to all of my connections. That means you just incrementally grew, or exponentially grew, literally by hundreds of percentiles. I am not a math wizard, so I'm not going to tell you what the math is, but it's a snowball effect. And so for every you build that, and that allows you to be seen in a way that it would take ages for you to do that. So every single connection does help, but your connection should also make sense. I want to ask you this question, Shell, and get your thoughts. How do you personally use your LinkedIn connections right now for your career?
How do I use them? I use them in a few different ways, and it feels weird to say that I'm using them, because I don't want anybody to feel like they're being used. But the way that I leverage the connections that I have, is I especially if I'm looking. So I have a few different things that I do, and I want to talk through a few through different ways that I leverage them. When I am looking to find new people, or look for new people in different areas, or just like to poke around and see where my audience is hanging out, I immediately go and I look and see, okay, who do I know in this space? Who do I already have here? And you do that by filtering to your first degree connections. I do that all the time. I'm like, who do I already know that is doing this thing or similar? And then I want to know who they're connected to. So then I switch it from first degree connection to second degree connection because I want to know who they know. And then I can filter down accordingly to see who they know and if they know anybody in those same spaces that I'm looking to be in. So I first look at my first degree connections. Those are the people you're directly connected to, right? And then I want to know, who are they connected to? And I look, that's the second degree connection. So you're separated by that mutual connection, that one person at least that you have in common with that new person that you're looking at, right? I think I'm explaining this effectively, but
You
I
are.
look at both of those things, and then I'm like, okay, who are the people? Who are these second degree connections? Well, I go back to the first degrees. Is there anybody worth having a conversation with right now that's doing the thing that I'm looking to do or that I want to know more about? And I go in, if I haven't talked to them in a while, I go and I re engage them either in the DMs or I comment on their post. Some way, shape, and form, I get back on their radar. Maybe I send them a voice note. I'm really good at those. Uh,
She
Mel,
does love
Mel
a good
knows.
voice note.
I
She
send a lot.
loves a good voice note. The other day she sent me two, and then she was like, "You don't have to listen to them." So true story.
I true story because I solved my own thing and I was like,
Yeah.
don't bother. I figured it out. Um, so first, so after identifying those people, I'll go and I'll re-engage with them. And then when I get to the second degree connections and I've identified, okay, who are the second degree connections in this list that also make sense for me to get in front of, I will either go and do that and check out their activity, engage with them. I'll either then message them straight away if I feel comfortable. I'm giving you a variety of options because you don't always have to do all the things. Um, Maybe I'll send them an email and be like, hey, I see we're both connected with so and so, or I really like that you did this on this post, whatever the thing is. I find another way in. Or I go back to my first degree connection. Remember, they're the mutual connection, the connecting thread between that first, who I'm already connected to and the person that I want to have on my radar. I go back to somebody that I already have that connection with, and I'm like, hey, how well do you know this person? And then they'll tell me, oh, it's just somebody I connected with. We didn't, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really do anything. And in which case I'm like, okay, not the person for me. Thanks for like sharing that information. I go down the Rolodex of that. I'm dating myself now. I go down that virtual Rolodex of people I've identified until I find somebody who knows that person really well. And once they tell me that they know them really pretty well, they're either going to tell me about their last engagement with that person or where they left off or something that I may need to know. I can use that information. And then I could go into the email or then I could send them a connection request with a note. Then I have more information to gather to get in front of that person. Or if I simply still don't feel comfortable to do it, I'll ask that person to make an introduction for me. So those are just a few of the ways that I regularly use my first and second degree connections to find new people to connect with, to have new conversations, to get in front of more people. Feel like I just gave you a whole whirlwind of information. Hopefully it made sense. What other
But
questions you got for me?
here's the thing, this is also on replay, so you can always go back and rewatch that and take notes and follow that up with that. So I think I would also add the one thing that hindsight's always 2020, but this is something that I could even do. You could do this. Everybody could do this little tip here. When I first started my business, and I think I see a lot of people like this, or even in the job search. So whatever your goals are. This applies to everybody. As I mentioned, that I think we often overlook our first degree connections. We think of like, I know as a coach and starting my own business, it was very intimidating. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I begin? I could have began with my first degree connections and simply have said a message like, this is like duh. um like like I could have, like, now I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have done that, right? But I could have started and said, hey, I know you know me as the recruiter. I recruited for 20 years. Thank you so much for supporting me. Guess what I'm doing now? I just started my own career coaching business. Not selling, but letting people know where I'm at and what I'm doing. hey, by chance, do you know of anybody that might be, need somebody to write a resume? Or at that point, I wasn't doing LinkedIn because I was still learning LinkedIn, but, so I was really just writing resumes left and right. I could have easily have done that. But this platform in some ways was kind of intimidating. I also didn't really understand how to show up on this platform in that way. But that, like, all of these connections, and we're seeing numbers like 3,910 for Mel Richards, 2655 for Meryl. I know Kathy, I think, had 1,100 maybe or something like that. Linda
And Linda
Brubaker,
said 3721.
21. Imagine, I mean, I know for me, like, I'll just use Linda's number of 3721. No, I mean, I didn't need 3,000 clients to be successful in a business per se, but it also gives you that chance of saying, "Oh, wait a minute. That person's not really a good connection for me anymore." Like, that person's truly not, maybe they don't have a lot of connections. And I'm not trying to be transactional in it, but we do have to understand each connection somewhat has, like, what I would say equivalent of a value to, to that. We might be nurturing that person for potential opportunities, maybe nurturing it for a job lead. But where is that? And the other thing is too, those first degree connections don't necessarily know where you're at today. They know where you were based on your relationship or your connection with them at that time, but they don't know where you're at today. And it's just that simple, reaching out and saying, "Hey, we haven't talked in ages. What are you up to?"
Yeah.
Like, what are you up to? Like, it's as simple as that. But how much, and this will be another question for the audience, do we all, like, maybe it's just me, but do you overthink, have you overthought that process of, like, rebuilding those building relationships with the connections you already have? Who has
Yeah.
overthought that process? Drop an emoji. I love a good emoji, folks. So you can drop emojis, however you want to respond. Just have fun with
I'm raising
it.
my
Yeah,
hands. I'm
we're good.
all, yep, I've been there.
Yep, getting the hearts, getting so.
Yeah. And
So
and I and I know a lot of my clients have faced that too. In fact, like when we get to the point of our work together and I give them this action item, this activity to go and do or to re-engage their existing connections, and a lot of them have this like instant fear or paralysis of like, well, what am I supposed to say? Like, I knew them back when, they don't know me anymore. uh, and then we talk through it, and then come to find out, like, after they've actually tried it, most of them feel much better about it. They And also, how much good stuff is happening when you take the time to like go through your existing connections. You're getting so much good information there. You're like, "Oh, okay, they're still doing this. This person's still doing this. This person's still over here." And you, like Mel said, you're identifying who still fits for you. And you don't have to get rid of those connections because you can still leverage their second and third degree connections and who they know. But like, you can start to identify, all right, where are the conversations that I need to still be having? Can I reignite any of these things? And especially if you haven't talked to them in a really long time, because this is the best. This is one of my favorite things, right? Guess what they're going to do the moment that you send them that message? They're gonna go check out your profile. Oh, what are they been up to? It's been a while. You get enough of those people doing that. Now LinkedIn's like, ooh, something's going on here. Maybe we should keep our eyes on this person. Like, maybe we should send their profile out and show them to more people. Maybe we should have them come up in more searches. You're starting to like wake LinkedIn up and let them know that, like, hey, stuff is going on here, stuff's happening, like pieces are moving. And like, if you keep doing that pretty consistently or like regularly, then the LinkedIn wheel never stops, right? So like, you're just by you going and reevaluating and looking at who you have in your, again, I'm going to date myself, LinkedIn Rolodex. You can keep LinkedIn knowing that you're pretty active and that you care about what's going on here and that pieces are always in motion. So I get really excited when clients experience that. They're like, "Oh my god,
I
people are checking out my profile." I'm like, "I know. How's it feel?" Feels really good.
I had a client today. We were starting to work on our profile, and I had sharing the screen. And over here, she sees, she's looking at it from my screen, and she's like, "Why does it show this person that I used to work with?" And I explained to her. I said, "You and I now connected, so it's telling me, hey, here's other people similar to you that maybe I should connect with." Because it's looking at what I'm doing, but also based on what your information is. So the platform sees that, so it starts to pick up, and this is where the one of the algorithms come into play. It starts to recognize your patterns of behavior, and who are you connecting with? Who do you like to connect with? And so when I'm telling my clients, like, if you want to be in the nonprofit space, get very, where I talked to a client today that she's in, well, like, we'll just say public policy, and she's looking to go to a major tech company. And I said, you need to get with every single public policy person, start looking to see who's connected to who has relationships with who, because that's where you're going to start to leverage those relationships. It's hard to get into these major tech companies if you know somebody that can help you, but also give you insight to the position. That's going to help you leverage that opportunity even more. But the same goes even if I'm looking to have clients. And my one client earlier today was like, "Oh, I don't even think I'm connected to him anymore." And I'm like, "Why are you not connected to the guy that you used to work with, that you said we're on good terms with?" And she's like, "Well, I didn't want people to look at my profile because my profile doesn't really, it's not been complete. I've not taken care of my profile. I was embarrassed by it." And I was like, "Okay, well, you know what? Now you've invested in your profile, so now we're gonna start to reach out, and we're gonna start to connect, because that's what we need to do. We need to start building. We need to start with the easiest places, with people that know you, and a simple hello will go a long way." I know it sounds silly, but a simple hello will go a long way. Just reconnected with one of my former staff members. He'd been kind of like, I don't want to say creeping, but he was like checking out my profile multiple times. And I'm usually, like, for me, I do check out who looks at my profile. And I didn't quite, honestly, I kind of labored, just because we didn't necessarily end on the greatest of terms, with all transparency. And we haven't spoken for quite some time. And I kind of labored on, like, what do I say? Or, but I've noticed, like, he's checked out my profile like 3 times in the last, like, month and a half. And so I finally just mustered up that courage and said, and I saw Jay's message. Hello there. um, um, maybe I should have been like, I could have used a Star Wars analogy, but I just basically said, "Hey, I saw you were checking out my profile. I hope you're doing well. I If you want to reconnect, more than happy to do so. Let me know if there's anything that I can be of a resource for you." And just left a door open. He sent me a nice response back that he's starting to thinking about developing his LinkedIn presence. And so I was like, "Oh, okay." That's even in that scenario, I got a lead. I got a lead because I kind of know, like, oh, that might be somebody that, we could literally, we could have this conversation, or somebody that might want to come to this. Hey, if you want to know more about your LinkedIn profile, come to this LinkedIn live that we're doing. So, yeah, so yeah, he definitely was lurking. I called him a creeper, but he definitely had been lurking for a while, and I just didn't know quite what to say. But once I got over that hump, it was a very, it was an easy conversation. Nothing bad happened. And now, the door's open, to be very honest with you. So that's a positive. So let me see what other, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know. We are going to share some updates in terms of things that you guys can expect coming the month of June. Like, hello, who's shocked that the month of June is literally, like, knocking at the door? So
Where does the
I
time
do
go?
I like thought May just started, but that's okay. um literally, I feel like May just started, but I'm okay.
I thought we just started January, so I mean, you're
Yeah,
doing better than me, right?
I need a little time back, but that's okay. We're going to be okay. I do want to share a success story about a connection and a connection request, okay, or a connection that I had. And this is the power of your first degree connections, okay? So I'm connected to a very well known Amazon recruiter. She recruits a very specific division and department for Amazon, okay? I happen to have a client. He came across this position with Amazon, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I know a recruiter that's in that. I know she recruits in this division." So I reached out to her, and I just happened to say, and I, wearing my recruiter hat, I felt very confident in his background, and it literally was a match. And I reached out to her, and I said, "Hey, here's this opportunity. I don't know if you're the recruiter for it, but I'd love to get you guys connected. He's interested in this position. I think he would be fabulous. He comes from with an amazing background." Ended up, she wasn't the recruiter for that job, but she got him connected to the right people. Long story, he ended up not getting the first go around for that particular position. What ended up being is they gave that position to the internal person, but when they had that next opening that was created because the internal person got promoted, within 30 days they reached out to my client, who then got hired by Amazon to fill that position. And that was all because of a first degree connection. And I will tell you this, that process took less than 90 days from start to finish. And I guarantee you that would not have been the case if that initial connection didn't happen. And it was just
Yeah.
simply knowing, like, oh, that I've got that person. But I can do this for all of my clients. I can go, okay, you're interested in this company, let's see who you have, let's see who you're, if you're a second degree connections to these people, let's see who I have. As a recruiter, I do have a very large network, or former recruiter, so my network is very large. I spent 20 years building up those connections, folks. So so my connection numbers are very high, but I spent a lot of time building those, and I have connections that transcend all different types of positions and all different types of people. So if you look at that, I always say never that was my job. That was my job. So is making sure I had relationships I could leverage. That being said, what do you feel like is the biggest networking mistake people are making on LinkedIn today?
Not not doing it.
I think there was a comment by Mel Richards, and hey, Mel, give a shout out to Mel Richards. We love you. Um, and I'm going to go back to that. But I think the other thing, too, that the biggest mistake is, here's what I would say: when it's a second or it's somebody that you don't know, going in for the automatic ask from the start.
Yeah.
I think that is, or even not, even if it's a first degree connection, not necessarily respecting that person's time and what you're asking for them. So I have an individual that's in my inbox right now. He's like, "Can you introduce me to recruiters?" Okay, that's a big ask, because there's a lot that goes into knowing, well, who should I introduce you to? What type of recruiters, where are they located? So that starts to, it's one thing if you do the research and say, "Hey, I see you're connected to so and so. Is it possible you could make that introduction?" Yeah, that's an easy thing for me to do, because that's not, but when you ask me to introduce you to recruiters, now you're asking me to, now you're asking for, and I don't want it to come off wrong, because I do a lot, but I also have a business to run. I also have clients that need me. And so it's, and then this individual's gotten a little frustrated because he was like, he's asked for this information like multiple times, and so it's just like that's not how to leverage your first degree connections. Like asking me to, like I would love to be able to connect every single person with a recruiter, absolutely, but not every recruiter is the right person for each individual. And the same goes with a client lead. I could give Shell client leads, but that doesn't mean it's the right person for her. I need to know, like, okay, who do you want to do business with? Who's your ideal client? Does this fit what you offer? So there's
Yeah.
a lot that goes into that I think you need to you need to have that ability to have that conversation first before you start asking what I call the heavy lift.
Yeah, but I do want to talk about what Mel shared in the comments. But another, as you were sharing, I it dawned on me that there's another big mistake when it comes to like networking on LinkedIn, and that's waiting for other people to come to you. Like we're talking about ways that you can be proactive in your connections, right? And like simply sending the connection request is great, but like what else are you doing? Have you done enough? Have you exhausted all opportunities and all ways that you can get in front of somebody? And I don't mean for you to like spam them or like, like every single one of their posts. I had that happen last week where somebody I was thanking somebody for doing something, and they turned around and then liked 17 more of my posts and then asked me to like theirs, and I was like, wait, what? No, no, that's not what we're not doing that here. But like I want you to be proactive about the people that you're getting in front of and know the reason and the intention behind, all right, I'm reaching out to this person because X, Y, and Z. Or I want to have this person in my network because X, Y, and Z. Like, know the reason. You don't even have to explicitly state it to that person, but you need to know the reason. I don't want you to blindly connect with people. I don't want you to blindly follow people. I don't want you to blindly hit the easy apply button and apply for jobs and just sit back and wait for the magic to happen. No, we need to be proactive about it. And I think that's a big misstep that a lot of people don't take in like going through their LinkedIn connections, going to the company page, checking out, and putting in specific keywords and using filters to figure out, okay, do I have any connections here? And if not, do I have any second degree connections here? Okay, cool. Who are the second degree connections and who are the mutual connections that connect me to that person? Can I make an ask? Do I need more information? Like, use your resources. Your connections are your resources. Company pages give you information. The search bar gives you information. The filters give you information. Leverage it. So again, like I know a lot of information, and I'm like on my soapbox right now, ranting about it. But like, I think that's a huge misstep that people make, or a step that they don't take and often forget about.
I will absolutely agree. And to expand on that, I had a client that she was struggling for a period of time. And she said to me, Melanie, I can't believe nobody from they had a massive layoffs. I can't believe my nobody from my company has reached out to see if I've landed a job. And I asked her, I said, well, have you reached out to them to tell them that you're still searching? And she's like, well, no. And I said, they may assume you've landed a job. They don't know. And so we can't make these assumptions that like um you know that we have to share that information with them. We can't expect people to read our minds or know what's happening in our lives or in our businesses or anything of that nature. We have to share that, and we have to not be afraid to share that information. I think that's the other thing too. And I said, well, why don't you do this? You need to be reaching out. And part of my strategy when I coach my clients is actually I suggest not like for example, if you want to connect with a recruiter, I actually suggest sending them a connection message, ideally with a connection with a note. When you're able to do it, LinkedIn does have some restrictions for depending on premium and all that fun jazz. But just send a connection and give some guidance under the what of why you're reaching out and connecting. 99% of people will connect with you. They will. They'll just hit accept. It's a bare bones. It's a reflex. Okay. We have one win. Okay. We have one win by that connection, because now all of a sudden you're a second degree connection to all of their connections. That's a win. That's a win. Even if
even if the conversation doesn't go any further,
it's a win. You got to win. Okay. Because guess what? Now you have the ability to do searches on those second degree connections, on companies and things like that. So now your database and LinkedIn, because remember, this is just a search engine. Yes, it's social media, but it's a search engine. Your search engine just got a lot more information by that connection acceptance. Okay. But here's the thing. So if they don't, and that's when I say, now if they hit accept, now we go back and say, thank you for accepting my connection request. As I had mentioned, I applied for, usually I always tell them to tell them what job they applied for, but help them in the process. We don't know what's happening. That other person could be swamped right now. Okay. And so when we start approaching conversations like, oh, I need to talk to you about this job, or I need to talk to you about your business, or I need to talk to you, it feels overwhelming. I got 1,001 things over here and 1,001 things over here. I don't have like that thought at that moment is I don't have time to talk to another person. Why do you need to talk to me? I've got nothing. I can't help you. That's kind of, maybe not everybody feels that way, but I think a lot of people do when they get those types of connection requests. But if we make it easy, and I'm not talking long periods of time, folks. I'm not talking this is a 6-month process. I'm literally talking maybe 30 days. It just depends on how quickly they accept. But here's the thing. If they don't accept, maybe it sits out there that's okay. Don't stress about it. Don't worry about it. Go on to the next person. I always say, pour into the people that are pouring back into you. That's where that connection comes from. And if they're not responding, no harm, no foul. Okay. And you know what? Maybe they'll connect with you in 30, 60, 90 days. Okay, I'm going to rinse and repeat that process. And I'm going to build those connections and I'm going to build those relationships. But I'm also going to build the relationships of the people that are responding back to those messages. Yeah. And when you do it please don't. I really don't think anybody that watches us is probably liking 17 posts at a time. But if you felt inclined to, don't do that. So I put the question out there for the audience. Jay has chimed in. He has said false. Meryl has said more connections do equal more opportunities. Jay had said you may not know the person and you may not know the opportunity if the opportunity is real or fake. Meryl said you can always leverage them strategically. Plus, they need to be quality connections and not just amassing raw numbers. So let's talk a little in. Annie has said it depends on whether you build relationships with your connections. So this is this was the question that was that was supposed to stir the pot. So
it is stirring the pot.
It's stirring the pot. It's doing its job. So let's talk a little bit more about this, because I'm actually going to say something. All three of you are right. All three of you are right. Yep. I don't know if we have, I think there's ways that we can look at it from both a false and a true perspective. So let's look at it from both sides in terms of those, because again, when we're on social media, what's the thing that people talk about? Talk about followers, talk about likes, impression numbers. It's always number centric, number oriented. And if you've listened to Shell and I for any period of time, and if this is your first time watching us, you're going to find out really quickly, we do look at the numbers. I don't want to say we're not about the numbers, because we do look at the numbers. It's good to have data, but we're not.
We look at what the numbers tell us, not the quantity. Yeah.
Because quantity doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't necessarily mean opportunities. It's what you do with that number. You could have 10 people like a post or 10 people connect with, but if I don't, to Shell's point, if I don't do anything with those 10 connections, then no, it's not going to equal opportunities. But I want to go to Meryl's point first off about quality connections. Those new connections that we're making today, tomorrow, and in the future. And I know you have some thoughts on quality connections and like who should we connect with? How do we determine who we connect with? Please share your thoughts in with the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to sit here and say that when I get a connection request, I accept it every single time. But the reality is, I probably at any given time have at least 50 or more connection requests that just sit there. And the reason that they sit there is because I'm not sure what to do with it. I don't quite want to accept it because I don't know where it's coming from. I don't have there a lot of times it doesn't have a note and I'm not sure why they wanted to connect with me and I don't have the time or the energy to do research right then, so I let it sit there. Or I'm like, okay, well maybe they'll reveal themselves at some point, so I don't want to hit the ignore button. But the reality is like I truthfully cannot accept every single connection that I request that I receive. Nor would I like, I don't, yeah, I want to have a more diverse and rounded out network, but like, I want to be really strategic and intentional with why I'm accepting you into my network. So, that being said, and for anybody who sent me a connection request that I didn't quite accept, maybe I'll get to it at some point. I don't always have the energy to do the research and do a deep dive on somebody to determine it. So don't take it personally. But like me letting it sit there is not a reflection of the other person. It's me holding the boundary of like, here are the people. Do I want to surround myself with this person? Is this person, you know, somebody that I can learn from or support, or is there another reason that we might have to connect? Like what is the curiosity? Like do I want to know more about this person? And so like I am very discerning when it comes to the connections that I send, connection requests that I send, and the connection requests that I accept. And even some of the ones that I accept, and Mel Richards, I think this will go back to answering your question too. Even some of the ones that I accept that I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure what they're about to say next, if they're going to say anything next at all. I could see how I could maybe support them, or I could see why maybe we would have a conversation and see if it's a good fit. And sometimes I do like hit the reply button in before even accepting it to say, hey, like, thanks for checking me out. Like, what brings you this way? Or I sent one
You
earlier
are the
today.
you are the
I'm
queen
good
of
at
that.
flipping it.
You are very much, because that is where so y'all, like, a lot of times we're obviously very sympathetic. Is that not, that's not the word, but I don't know the word I'm looking for, but we're very much on the same page. I was like trying to be smart and then that, went out the window. But Michelle and I are very different when it comes to this, because I openly and I fully say this, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I have connection bias. I've created my own bias, by the way, for this.
And that's fine.
So, so for example, if you have in your headline, I help coaches earn $1 million in a month or something like that, I will not connect with you. Will not connect with you. Why? Because my bias is that you are automatically targeting me to sales pitch me. And and this goes like even when I've looked for cars in the past, like when I first, was looking for a car and things, like I literally would tell car salesmen, do not sell to me. Don't talk to me. Don't even like I'm that person. I'm literally like, I know what the car is that I want, and I just want to look on my own. Okay. I don't want to, like, I don't want any of the fluff. Like, don't do that. I know what I need and I'm going to seek it out. That's how I am. And I do that with all of my services. Like, for example, my website, I vetted tons of people before I chose the guy that made my website. And it was because, and there were things that he did that earned my trust, that I actually felt like, because that was one of the biggest investments I ever had made up to my business. And I was scared to death that I'm handing this person the money and he's going to do it and it's going to be a horrible website. I was so thankful that I found this guy that, was just a great, he my always will be my top referral. But so if I see that in your headline, I don't ask you why you want to connect with me. I don't even, I'm literally like, nope, ignore that one. But yeah, I mean, I stick to my
to your
criteria.
point, so what I'll say to that, and then just to like bring it back around, like, you're allowed to have connection bias. You're allowed to make a snap judgment about somebody that you're considering, should I accept them into my network or not? Because your network is your safe space. You're curating it to be your supportive network, for lack of a better word. I want you to have those snap judgments and impressions and listen to your gut about, all right, something doesn't feel quite right here, or yeah, like this sounds really great, let me like see if I can learn more here. Like, go with your instincts. Like, you can do that for yourself. Do you have to make those snap judgments? Like, am I telling you to like criticize that person openly? And like, hell no.
No,
This
no.
is an inside thing. Like, I want to be kind and respectful of anybody who does, want to connect, but I also know that you get to choose who you allow in your space. And so yes,
100%.
absolutely be discerning with it. How
And
and some of the things that I do when I am making that snap judgment, even if I see that they have, I help coaches and founders reach this level or get this many leads or some, whatever, 10x anything, whatever those things are. Even if I just have a gut sense that they're going to pitch me within the first message, if they tell me that if I can see that they do that thing, and then I go as an engagement person, right? Like, knowing my background and what I do and how I help people on LinkedIn specifically. If you're reaching out to me and I know that you're about to pitch me, and I go to your activity and I look at your profile and there's gaps there, and I'm like, all right, you're going to help me do this, but you're not doing this core thing. And I believe that this is a core thing that needs to be done in order for that to happen. I'm going to flip that on its head and be like, okay, so I see you help coaches like me, but you're not doing this thing over here. Why aren't you doing that? Are you here because you want to do more of that? And I will flip the conversation around. Now, that's where Mel's saying that I'm really good at doing that. Do I do that for everybody? No, it doesn't always make sense. If I get a feeling that I'm like, okay, I know they're about to pitch me, but actually I can probably support them, I take a chance. More often than not, I take a chance. Now, to Mel's
you,
question in the comments,
oh, no, you
like,
go ahead.
yeah, being, having the courteous responses to new connections who pitch slap instead of exploring ways to get to know each other with curiosity, grace, and patience. Yeah, sometimes I start a conversation with the intention on my end of like being more curious and wanting to know why they're about to pitch me. Does this actually work for you? Who has it worked for? Like, what are your goals and intentions behind this? In my own curiosity, if I start the conversation and then I either get ghosted or, to Mel's point, get immediately pitch slapped, or they go on any other tangent that just diverts the whole conversation, yes, I do disconnect. I'm like, okay, I made a mistake here. I got all the information I needed to know. I don't have time and energy for this. And sometimes I don't even tell the person that I'm doing it. Again, this is your network. You get to decide what you allow into it. And if you want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt and test the waters, great. If you also then decide that, hey, I've talked to this person or they said one thing and it gave me the ick, disconnecting and blocking and blessing is okay. You can change your mind. So,
Abs
Mel, I think I answered your
100%.
question and then some.
Yes, no.
Both Mels.
I will definitely say Shell gives more grace to people. I tend not to be the one that gives more grace to people. I tend to be very, but to Kathy's point, setting boundaries even in LinkedIn is healthy, and it is healthy, and it is something we should do. And I think, we don't let anybody just come through our front door of our home. We shouldn't let just anybody come through, and there are people out there that do mass connect, and just like, oh, connect, and I think you have to have I believe in having parameters. I know we're almost to 7 o'clock. We've only got 9 more minutes, buddy. Hang tight.
Was that you seeing Charlie freak out in the background?
Yes. Yeah. So,
He also
um,
hears the garage open and he's like, I
okay.
want to go out and explore. Let me out.
I'm like, buddy, hang on. We've got what, 9 more minutes, buddy. It's all we got. Almost there. Simpson will be getting up here shortly, anyways, for his like 15th dinner or something. And because he's constantly starving in his world. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we have to have, you treat this like are these people that, not everybody's going to be a person that you would sit down and go, oh my gosh, I'd want to have coffee and get to know them, and be their best friend. That's we don't need to have. Not every person serves that purpose. Everybody kind of has a bucket, so to speak. So yeah, are there still actually lions on LinkedIn? I forget what the lions, but it was
LinkedIn Open Networker, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I know it's open. So those, I know there's still people with
They still
with it.
exist.
I think
And
they still
I use them.
exist.
I absolutely help leverage them with specific clients. It still makes sense to leverage them. Um, but does everybody need to say that they're an open networker? No. Does everybody need to use that particular strategy to find and connect with open networkers? No. I leverage them with a specific client that is usually just starting out, that like maybe isn't getting the responses that they want, and we need to find a way to get them in front of the right people rapidly, and that's a good starting point. I use it as a framework to teach people, because it's also a good like tool. I'm like, hey, okay, if we want to start, here's where we're going to start. I use it as a framework, a baseline to show people how to search and filter, because it's an easy ask since they are connection collectors.
And I love that, because that does serve, like, if you are somebody that is like brand new, that's building your LinkedIn profile, or maybe has less than 100 connections, and you're needing to build those connections, I always say start making lists. So go back to high school. It's, and people are like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, like go back to like, who are you connected with on Facebook? Like, look and see if those, look at your high school connections, look at college connections, break it down into sections of your life. Like, if you're involved in your church, maybe you're involved in a volunteer organization, who are those people you should, so if you're building those connections, if you're at that stage. Now, if you're at a stage where you're over that quote unquote the perfect number of 500, then okay, now we need to start being strategic. Now we need to start thinking, is that a person that I should connect with? How does that fit into my puzzle? Does that make sense? And some of those people you will connect with, but a lot of people are always shocked when they say like, oh my gosh, I'm getting pitch slapped here, I'm getting pitch slapped here, getting pitch slapped here. Some of those are direct connections. Some of those are direct connections or direct in mails that happen because of premium and things of that nature. But I don't get pitch slapped that much, to be very honest with you, because some of that starts with the connections that I'm making, and I'm looking at that. But then I'm also, for example, I never respond if it's a pitch slap. That I will not respond to those in mails. It also dings that person if they're using like a sales navigator, things like that. So you don't necessarily, when you start to delete them, and all I do is delete the conversation, they do not show up as much. Oh, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Meryl. Um, Meryl's like in my brain. Like 10 minutes later, here's what we're talking about. Simpatico. Thank you. And so that is something that's really important. And I think, again, really being conscious of who you're connecting with. But as we start to wrap up for this evening, I just want to have Shell leave some closing thoughts, but we also want to share with what's kind of happening in the next coming weeks and what we want you to be looking out on the look out for. Is reach out to those first degree connections. Download your connections. If you guys don't know how, message me. I'll send you the directions. One, you should always do this anyways. You should do this at least once, like every 3 months, every 6 months or so. It's just good to have it because God forbid you couldn't get into LinkedIn or something. At least you'd have names and ways that you could, you could go on link or Facebook, Instagram if you needed to rebuild your social media presence, but you got to have a someplace to start, right? And start reaching out to your first degree connections. They're literally waiting there for you. And there's some really great conversations, but great opportunities that are literally sitting in LinkedIn right now that you haven't tapped into to meet your goals. So that's my advice. Shell, thoughts and closing words.
Yeah, I mean, you know it. You've been here before. You definitely know it. Um, Speaking of connections, look around this room, specifically the chat, because obviously the room is live now, so we can't all see like the talking heads and the people in the space. But like, look at who joined this evening. Go and see, are you connected with these people, or is there anybody else that had an interest, whether they're your first, your second, or even your third degree connections, that was interested in this conversation that you want to also have a conversation with? We're here for the taking the action of becoming LinkedIn rock stars, right? And so, especially when we're talking about leveraging your connections and maximizing your connections, look at the people who are right here. We all have that same interest. So if no other place, start right here. Start where you're at. Um, Also, please come back next week. Same bat time, new LinkedIn post to watch us on though. So I can't even say same channel, but like new event page. Doesn't really work when I complicate it like that. Ignore it. See us next week too. We always look forward to having you guys here. And Mel, why don't you
Actually,
tell
I
them
don't
a
know
little
if we're
bit
going to
about?
do next week or not.
No, I thought we weren't going to
Um,
start the new thing until June. So
Oh, okay. Actually, you're correct. I was like, "What is?" I'm like, "What's today?" Okay, so now I've confused everyone. Everyone's like, "What the heck?" Um, okay, guys. So you're gonna start seeing, as you kind of see, we always called ourselves LinkedIn 101, becoming a LinkedIn rock star. Still the same foundation. Building off of that, we're kind of changing it to more of like rocking LinkedIn. Still kind of playing around with the name on that, but we're going to change up the format a little bit. And so what you're going to see starting in June is we're going to do the first and the third Thursdays of every month. It's still going to be this format, open to the public, but the second week of every single month, we're doing a paid masterclass. And so, what that's going to be is every single month, we're going to have one topic. We're going to lay the foundation in that first month, that first session for you, and talk about action items. But we're gonna be we want to give you homework. I'm just going to call it is what it is. Because here's
yeah,
the thing. This
I
goes
call it
back to
action
what
items with my clients, but yeah, homework
I know
sounds
people.
boring.
Well, and people cringe at homework. So yeah. But here's what we want. Going back to what I said at the very beginning, we really want people to be leveraging this platform to achieve your goals. So we're going to have one topic per month. And then for those that want to go do a deeper dive, that want to get one-on-one coaching with us, you can come to the master class. That's a private master class, but you're going to get you're going to get more personal attention. And then the third week, we're going to come back here and we're going to talk about successes. We're going to have you share what did you do? How did it work? What challenges did you face based on that given topic? So it could be everything from developing your personal brand. Maybe you already have a personal brand and you're like, Melanie, I don't need to develop it, but I bet you need to refine it because I know I have. I know Shell has. And so we're always in the process of growth. We're always in that growth process. So where do you land in that? We are going to have, we are going to be starting to open up opportunities for people to work with us both of us together, but one on one.
One on two?
One on two, like
Yeah.
2 on 1.
I don't know.
But you
It sounds bad.
basically you can hire both of us to be your personal LinkedIn coach. And you're going to do this in either a private setting or a group setting. But you get the opportunity to have different bonuses, ongoing support and network, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or for a full year. So super excited because we started what we called the LinkedIn Rockstar Academy, and we wanted to expand that to really be able to dive deep much further in than just doing a 6-week cohort with everybody, but really dive deep. So part of what we wanted to do was not just make it an exclusive thing for a private audience, but want to give that to our public audience as well and have you be a part of it. But know that you can also hire us as your LinkedIn coaches. So super excited. So if you like the sounds of it, give us some love on the LinkedIn with some emojis. That would be great. We love emojis. I love emojis.
And again, those free sessions will be every month on the first and third week of every month. And we're really, yes, I know, we're almost done.
Almost done, buddy.
We're really going to try to keep it actionable by focusing in on one core topic per month. And that way, over the next, depending on what section you want to dive deep on, or if you want to work a little bit on all the things, hopefully over the next year, you will have overhauled and their lives. So you could always come back and watch the recordings, right? You'll have tools and resources that you can refer back to overhaul your presence anytime you want to go back in and refine it. So again, for the first and third week of every month, starting in June, and then we'll have paid opportunities sprinkled in between that too, if you want to dive a little bit deeper and get more comprehensive support.
So super excited. Can't wait to roll it out. More details coming. Share with your network. Invite people next week to come and join us. If you know those first degree connections, if you know that person that's like, oh man, I'm struggling on LinkedIn, send them an invite. Say, you got to come and join me. We do this, we're going to change it up, but do this. We're going to at least have 2 times a month where you get to have a little fun on a Thursday night and get to enjoy this time and, but also be able to learn.
You bring Mr. Simpson, I'll bring Charlie.
It'll Simpson's like in his I think stardom went to his head and, he's very much like, no, I cannot see my audience. He's becoming very select about his presence. He's actually passed out, but he also had a very tough week because I was away for a long period of time, and he does get stressed out when I'm away, and so he is in a catch-up mode of like just restful peace because I don't think he sleeps when I'm away. Definitely based on how much he passes out. So, but he's all well. He's passed out in the other room on his blankie, and he lives a good life, so we can't complain. So
and on that note,
my job is just to make his life better. That's all my job is. So, but on that note, we're going to wrap it up so that Charlie can go out and play, and we will see you guys back next week, and look forward to having you join us.
All right.